Welcome to the Voice of Reason. This is the month of September, isn't it?
Yes.
We had a slight postponement last week, so we're getting more time between shows. So don't worry, you can always look it up somehow with Shrewsbury Connections. First topic I want to talk about tonight is the school budget. We had started it once before, and we found some items that they were talking about for the school budget that was not testable. And so I did a little research, found out things like, what's that name again?
Mindfulness?
Mindfulness. I was taught by a friend of mine for 30 years in the 3rd grade. And anyway, some of the things she was talking about sounded very good. Learning responsibility. And she had him write out every day a sentence of saying something kind to another classmate. And then presenting them in class, a few of them, so that everybody got to hear them. At least 4 or 5 of them anyway.
Such as, you're not as bad as everybody says.
You know, you look good even if you don't comb your hair. You know. But anyway, it was kind of interesting how it played into. I had a resource person, had 30 years experience at it, and then I was watching a show on one of the committees, school committees, and they were saying that what they wanted to get into the budget if they got some more money was all this stuff that wasn't taxable.
Okay.
So they didn't get the money, so it's not in the budget right now, but you can say in the future, they'll try to find some room for it.
Oh, okay.
Well, they're getting the first year for free, is from what I saw, is that the partnership they're working towards is with this mindfulness company that's going to come in and create this program, that the first year is going to be a complimentary year. And then after that, the school committee and the school department has to decide whether or not they're going to continue it. But is this something that can be measured, like reading, writing, and arithmetic? Is this a measurable venture that they're going after, or are they going to, oh, we like it, it sounds good, everyone's nicer to each other? I mean, how do you measure it?
When they stop shooting, it'll be okay.
Okay.
Okay, Charlie, tell us something about the budget you had in front of you, which is the written report from the school committee, right?
Right, in the most recent issue of the Shrewsbury School Journal, which I believe is the spring-summer edition of this year, there was a article entitled "The School Department Budget, a New Approach," written by the chairman of the school committee. And the first paragraph talks about the fact that the status quo budget just wasn't enough to maintain what the expectations of the community are. And upon reading that, a few questions came to my mind. And the first of these, how do you determine the expectations of the community? First of all, you have to define who the community is, I suppose. Then secondly, how do you go about, in an objective way, measuring their expectations? I've never, in my 28 years I've been a resident of Shrewsbury, have I never been asked my opinion from the school department, what do you expect of education? And it's a good thing that she says something like that, but how are you going to go about doing it? I don't know if it's ever been done. Do they go out presently and talk with people and randomly survey people and say, where do you think education should be? So that's my number one question. My number two concern is these schools, from my perspective, should be academic. Just how much does the community know about what the children should be doing academically? Who determines that? Should it be the community in general? It'd be just like having the medical community coming to me and saying, what do you expect for us to do for you medically? I don't know. I don't know. I have a bad stomach. You determine what you have to do. All I want to see is relief, maybe a cure, or whatever it be. And I don't think we're going about that in Shrewsbury. And I don't see how the community's opinion shouldn't enter into the academics that much. For them to react and say, this is what you're trying to do academically, and this is how I perceive you're doing it, and do I think my child is learning, that's good. I said, well, up to a point, but to rely upon the community to drive the direction of the schools, I seriously would question about that. And I would also say that you have to go to true academic people to determine where the schools are going. If your schools are to be places of academic work, and from my perspective, not just in Shrewsbury, I think and across America, our schools have definitely and are becoming less academic. Because with your initial comment about mindfulness, John, where they take school time, very valuable school time that should be devoted to academics, and they're having the students write out, have you been kind to somebody today or whatever. These are things that should be taken care of at the home.
Learning manners.
Right, I knew that when I was, I guess, 4 years old. I guess most of us, it was like second nature. You never thought about learning that in school. All it was in school, those things were reinforced in school, because if you didn't behave in a mannerful way, you were punished. And you were punished again when you got home, because once the mother and father found out, then the roof did really truly cave in. And the other questions that raised in my mind was, the expectations have to be within the community's financial ability to fund that expectation. And that always is something that people don't really consider from where I'm coming from. They think everything is pie in the sky. Just say this is what we want and we must get it. Realistically, it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. Another topic in this article was that she lists 4 strategic priorities of the schools. A few things we'd like to discuss here. First of all, space and resources. And clearly we need adequate amount of space to have enough classrooms where you can have classes of a decent size. I'm not saying to permit classes of 35, but again, to have classes of 10, that's maybe questionable. Unless, of course, these are special education students where you would want smaller groups. So space and resources is something that definitely has to be a priority. I can definitely understand that. And I think that's a good thing that she mentions that. The second one is to support effective learning and provide learning environments where everybody's success matters. And that should be a concern of the school. But the success of a student just doesn't depend on the school. It depends on himself. For each of us to be a learner. What happens externally is fine, but the proof of the pudding is what happens internally. And just how dedicated every student is, from kindergarten all the way through high school, is into learning. And that's where, from my point of view, the home comes in. And what the home does, positively or negatively, should not impact the financial responsibility of the community at large to say, students aren't studying, we have to spend more money, or they're not behaving properly. No, I think parents have to be more responsible. The serious business environment of the school, I think, is lacking. And one of the things that shows that to me is where you look at how students dress. They are not dressed in a serious manner. And I'm not being critical of them in terms that the dress is bad. They're dressing as though they're going to the playground, which is fine. That's how you dress when you go to the playground. But to me, when you dress when you go to school, you should be dressed in something better than some of the things I see. And then on the other side of the desk is how teachers dress. I have seen how some of the Shrewsbury teachers dress, and I've also seen how teachers dress at colleges, and I've seen how teachers dress in the high school when I retired. To me, it was deplorable. right now, I am one of the very few teachers that goes, and I'm not bragging, trust me, but I'm one of the very few teachers that goes in there every day with a shirt, tie, and jacket, with shoes. I've seen
With
them.
shoes?
I wear shoes. I don't wear sneakers.
Oh, okay. I was thinking they might wear sandals or go
They do.
barefoot.
I've seen that. And to show how old I am, I can remember back sometime, it was in the late 60s, there was some place in this country where the school teachers, I don't know if it was the union or just the teachers in that community, banded together and took the school committee to court. And they said that the school committee could not dictate how teachers dressed, and they won.
Really?
Yes. And it was after that that teachers started to really dress down every day. And it happened in our school. But that happened after the school committee, a year or two after our school committee essentially gave up the dress code for the students. And I see the dressing down for both, all the people now in the academic community has taken us away from being serious academic people on both sides of the table. And some teachers may criticize me for saying this, which is fine, they have that right to do that. But I believe that makes a big difference. I really do, because it sets a tone, especially with young people. And if I take it a step further, without preaching religion, I think it happens in our churches as well. People don't believe that you have to dress up to go to church anymore.
No, they don't.
And I think that takes away from what's happening in our churches. And I'm not being judgmental, but it's just, from what I see, it's being serious. It's the seriousness of the building, and you dress according to what the activity is going to be. There was a third point that she makes here in the strategic planning is enhance well-being for social emotional education, and I think this ties in with the mindfulness program that they have. And the question I raise is that, is it the school's responsibility to look after the emotional needs of these children? Or is that the parent's responsibility? If the child is sick, has a sore throat, is it going to be the school's responsibility to make sure that that child goes to a physician and gets and seeks treatment? Maybe it is. Maybe we should start worrying about that. So why should the schools delve into this area? And legally, I wonder how far they can go. Because if I was a parent, and the school department came to me and said there's something emotionally wrong with your child, I think I would take them to court and say, why are you doing this? That's my child, not your child. The fourth idea in their strategic planning is they're concentrating on connected learning for a complex world. First of all, what is the definition of a complex world? Nowhere in the article does she say that. And connected learning, as she goes on to later describe it in the article, is they plan to take students out of the classroom and take them to different places, apparently businesses or different environments, where they can see how what they are learning is applied. And that's a good thing up to a point. But what it does, especially in mathematics, and I'm prejudiced on this and I say that openly, it takes away from the whole purpose of learning mathematics for the sake of learning mathematics. Learning mathematics now has turned into, if you can't apply it, then you don't have to learn it. And I think they're missing the boat, because the whole purpose of learning mathematics is how to think logically, how to develop your mind, increase the capacity of your mind, and problem solve. I've had so many students from my high school teaching career whom I had met much later in life, and they always come up to me and say, Dr. Garabedian, I took geometry from you. And that was the most difficult course I've ever had in my life, because of all the proofs we had to do. But they say, when I've gone into my job, whatever it is, I can solve problems. I can think. I can remember things. And he says, right. I says, that's what academics is all about. So I believe that, although what they're trying to get at is, it's well-intentioned, there's no question about it. But they're missing the point of why do we have schools?
I'd be grateful if the kids could make change.
Well, right. And, I make change for the people when I go to the, when I go to the store, I'll hand them a penny and they'll say, what did you do that for? I said, that way, I said, you're just gonna give me 25 cents back. I said, then the deal was done.
Oh, yes. That always confuses
Yeah,
them.
right.
Yeah.
And that's very, very sad.
Throws them into complete confusion.
And at the sake of, at the risk of bragging, I knew about that when I was in the 3rd grade. The minute that we learned subtraction, we knew how to do this.
Yeah.
We could do these little things here, and then you have to write it out. But we started writing it out. I can remember the teacher said, if you don't understand, write it out. So we wrote it out. Then after a while, that enough of that writing turned into a mental process for us. You could see it in your mind after you wrote out enough times.
Yeah, well, nobody uses flashcards anymore, so nobody knows
No.
what 7 times 9 is.
Right. And the whole idea of doing something repetitively has gone out the window as well.
Drilling.
That is identified as being boring for them. And my analogy to that, and my counter argument, I suppose, is that when they are doing something in the schools that is non-academic, and I'll just pick out a couple of scenarios, and I am not picking out the football players. I'm not at all. I'm not picking out the people that are in the school band, because I was in the school band. I'm not picking out the people that are in the school play, because I was in school plays. But in all 3 of those scenarios, to reach the level of perfection that was expected on the football field, they practiced the same play over and over so that that Saturday they could win the big game against their arch enemy, whoever that would be. In the debating club, they would practice their arguments over and over, and the band would practice the songs over and over before we had a concert, before we would march for Memorial Day, or even before we go to a football game to play. We keep on practicing to hit perfection. When we have a school play, they keep on rehearsing the lines so that they can do the acting and the moving perfectly, so it looks like a professional performance. That's wonderful. But when it comes to doing the repetitive on the academic end of it, that's boring. And it reflects the values of the society. The society really does not, from where I'm sitting, admire or respect the academic learning as being something important. The other things take precedent over it. So with that, John, I would perhaps rest, although I do have a couple more things to say.
You're resting your case, are you?
Well, right now, temporarily. I do have a few more things that I could say, but I will defer.
We will give other guys a chance to talk a
Right.
little bit,
That's
just a
good
little
idea.
bit.
Chris, any follow-ups on that?
Oh, I was just thinking that if you're gonna, you should be able to know, the basic outlines of history of your country and how to construct a coherent English sentence, and you should be able to understand written texts and at least be able to figure out what 20% off means. And I don't even see those basic skills being stressed. It's getting mushier and vaguer every day, and I remember that a certain person here, you had to hire tutors just to get his kids to learn stuff that
But he was delayed
he was delayed for a while, but
a long time.
yeah,
He didn't learn English well enough to start. He was
yeah,
almost 3,
yeah.
and they said, well, he doesn't know any English. So everybody approached it as though he was supposed to learn it like overnight. But I got the right tutors. We learned English and we learned math, and we just kept going until finally they had put him in special education in 3rd grade, I think it was. They had to kick him out. He was too smart.
Yeah, but that's
They didn't want to sit there and work in a group, and they say, don't talk to Andre because he already knows the answer. Because somebody on this table taught him
Yeah.
before the class was held. And so had a ways to go.
Yeah.
But he turned out to be an average college student,
Yeah.
and he's still in college.
Yeah, well, I would just point out, you know, that you had, in the case of your son, you had to fork out extra money to
Oh, yeah. Well, I had to take the initiative. When he was first put in special education, I went out and hired a consultant to come in and take a look at what they were doing. And then she had to tell them how to change their teaching methods, their tests, whatever, so that he could pass. Not that he was not capable, they were incapable of teaching him.
Yeah.
So when they took the test, for instance, and passed it to special education teachers to bleed down these big questions that have like 20 factors in it, get it down to about 5, and then he knew what, you know, you could give him the right answer every time. I only did that once. Once I learned how things were going so badly for the schools, I knew I couldn't afford to teach all of them. I mean, every teacher needed to have help because they didn't know how to address a special education student in their. What they did is they had a model where every teacher got some special education students in every class. They didn't know how to handle them.
Yeah, see, that's one of the things that I object to is that they want all this inclusivity so that you know the kids don't feel like there's something wrong with them. But there's a reason why they're called special ed students. It's because they require special ed.
Well, they take tests. They take special tests.
Yeah.
And if you flunk those tests, then you wind up getting into special ed because you're not where you're supposed to be in the grade level.
Yeah.
But as it turned out,
You know, the teachers really aren't ready to do the teaching for these kids. And
Well,
and on top of that, like in grade schools, they've got like 3 groups of students in each classroom. The students who take more time, the average students and the fast students, and so basically each teacher has to develop 3 different curriculums for each group of kids, and so they're given 3 kids. They have to give 3 tests every day, or 3 work assignments every day, which means giving 2/3 of them get busy work, while 1/3 of them is actually being taught. And so everything is being watered down, slowed down, and
but there is hope.
I hope so.
By the time Andre was in the 4th grade, and we straightened out the test problem that they had at school,
Yeah,
he never failed another test
yeah,
from the 4th grade to the 12th.
yeah. No, that's
They thought he was really a dummy, but they were the dummies not being able to give him the test questions correctly.
yeah. That's it. And I've heard other horror stories. Like one case was a person I know here in town. I won't mention his name, but he was deemed by the school system as being developmentally retarded. It turned out he needed eyeglasses. That was the problem. So he was included.
Well, they did figure out how to help kids that couldn't hear well.
Yeah.
They would put a mic on the teacher's desk to speak into, and then they would transmit it right into their ear.
Yeah.
And then that kid didn't have any problem anymore.
Yeah.
That sounds like a simple
Yeah.
problem to actually solve some of the issues that we have where the teacher could actually be speaking into something and it translates for the kids
Yeah.
that don't speak English. But we need to bring them up to the speed where they do speak English
Yeah.
sooner so they can be on the same track as everybody else.
Yeah.
Chris is referring to with the woes of heterogeneous grouping,
Yeah.
which is a very inefficient way of teaching.
Yeah.
And our former superintendent challenged the teachers that they must come up with what he called differentiated learning, which is having several different lesson plans for one group in one period. That
The teacher's got to develop three lesson plans every single day.
That doesn't make sense at all. And
No.
financially,
Yeah.
it is counterproductive. It costs more money that way to do it that way, because if you have homogeneous grouping, you can make larger classes
Yeah.
with the brighter kids, because they're right on it. Plus, most of them are better well behaved. but they're going in the opposite direction. But
Yeah.
what we don't realize, that we all, each of us, in different ways, we're not all equal. Let's face it, this is life. So we are grouped. We are grouped just physically. I'm in a certain physical, let's say, group according to my ailments that I have physically. But am I going to argue about that? Say, no, I want to be with those other people. I want to be with the cancer people, and I got a heart problem. No.
Well, let's pass on that one. Let's tell us something about roads that we've been,
Oh, sure, we've got a few projects that are wrapping up, and probably a few projects around town that are gonna go through the winter. The one that looks like it's about to go through the winter is gonna be the Route 9 and, not Route 9, Route 290, 140 overpass. We just came across it. It looks like it's gonna be at least another year to finish that project. That's the one where the FedEx has their new facility up in Boylston. So that looks like an extended one. The Main Street project that goes down to 290 from the center, that seems like it's finally
That's going to be finished sometime in October, they say.
getting in their last phases.
Thank you, God.
Lake
Thank you.
Street, Lake Street is also in its last phases, but be careful on Lake Street because they've taken a lot of these roads, and this applies to Francis Ave also. They've kind of gone to the minimum road sizes from what it looks like. It's tight, they're much tighter streets, and now you have the curbs that are not the real old cement curbs. These are asphalt curbs, which are much more difficult to pick up with the eyes
at night.
at night. They don't have the lines down yet, the white lines, so hopefully they'll have those down soon enough. But as you're turning out onto these roads now, stay tight to the right if you're taking a right-hand turn, because someone could be coming up, and be kind of in the middle of the road. They don't realize they are. There's the spot around where you go in to Stop and Shop on Lake Street. I can see a lot of problems going to happen there because people are used to being able to swing around somebody there. They're not going to be able to do that anymore. And if they think they are, they're going to be taking off a rim or two and a tire. And that goes with Spruce Street at the intersection of Lake also. They've widened that area. So that's another area to really be careful. Go slow through these areas. Don't tailgate, and make sure you have enough, clearance, because you really never know what that person in front of you is going to do, and you never know if they're on their phone. So be careful out there. Try not to be on the phones, and drive safe, my friends. Got about 50 seconds, John. Wrap it up, my friend.
How's the Prospect Park and their loaming?
Oh, yes, there's an ongoing project to upgrade the Prospect Park, and one of the efforts is to put some fresh soil up there to do some planting, and boy, did they bring a lot of dirt in. They had like 5 dump truck fulls. So and it took them. Fortunately, we had a gentleman volunteer, a retired policeman, who brought a bobcat up. So that helped transport this mountain of loam.
Well, the next time you can tell us that they smoothed it out good and put in some grass seed or something. Good night, all.